What's up, guys? This is Teddy. Welcome to my YouTube channel. This video, we're going to be tackling one of my favorite topics in all of software development, and that is unit testing. Yes, unit testing in a strange way. Unit testing, I like writing unit tests. I like seeing unit tests pass. There's just something very comforting about seeing a unit test passed, or you click that green button and everything goes green and you're ready to go. And I'm going to try and give you that passion and that enthusiasm, because after this course you're going to be a master at unit test. I'm going to take you from somebody who knows almost nothing about unit tests, like you've never written a unit test, all the way to you could write unit tests in a production environment straight off the bat, and you're going to be literally, you could be a professional at this. So unit test, at the end of the day, unit test make sure that your code is not breaking in unintended places. And you may be like, why do we even have unit tests? Like, really, what is like the big deal? Why do employers want you to have unit tests so bad? And that is, you work on a team. You're working on a team. You're working within code bases with thousands of classes, thousands of files, and you make changes to code all the time. Obviously, you're a software developer. Code changes all the time. And when you are working on code, number one, you're working on a team, which adds complexity. You're working on a large code base that adds complexity. You make changes to code, and a lot of times it breaks in other places. It's just, I was even trying to think about like why it even happens, but I really don't even know why it happens. Like, it's just one of those things that happens, and I think it just has to do with the sheer complexity of software in our world today. We didn't even used to have unit tests back in 2000. I wasn't a software developer back then, but unit tests are actually a relatively new phenomenon. And if you don't write unit tests, I won't go into great details, but I actually used to work at a place and they didn't have unit tests. And one time a developer made a change and it literally broke like a very critical part of the app. And they chewed this developer out in front of everybody in the Slack chat and literally dressed this person down, disrespected them. And it just created like this super toxic environment. And I was just thinking to myself, if you guys just would have bit the bullet and wrote some unit tests, this place wouldn't be so toxic. So you don't write unit tests, your code gets progressively toxic to the point, your code gets toxic. Your code gets terrible to the point where it creates toxic work environments. And if you're a software developer, I guarantee you probably worked in a couple toxic work environments here and there. So write your unit tests and get good at unit tests, because it makes you employable and it makes it so that your code doesn't stink. So a quick hard fast rules about unit testing, and there's not a lot of them. Unit testing is an art. If somebody tells you your unit tests suck, I wouldn't take it to heart. And everybody just kind of has like a way of doing unit tests, and you can actually test too much. And really the whole entire idea is you want to click a button, you want to run like 1,000 tests for a code base in it. You want it to be at the snap of a finger. You don't want unit tests that take a long time to run. You want to run these tests, you want it to go for you just want to run thousands of tests. And if you have too little tests, that's a bad thing, but you can also have too many tests. If you have too many tests, it can create an environment where people are forcing tests to work. It can create an environment where people are so frustrated with these super rigid unit tests that they don't even want to work for you. Another thing is, I'm using Visual Studio. Visual Studio probably has some of the best test runner that is in the industry. The unit you do not want to do unit tests in VS Code, no matter what anybody tells you. Make sure you're doing this in Visual Studio. Everybody's got their own flavor of frameworks that they use, and you only want to unit test you don't want to unit test everything. You don't want to be unit testing models, and you don't want to be unit testing things that are static, but you want to unit test things that are critical and are constantly changing. So here's how this course is going to work. in the very beginning, we're going to be doing what I call the world's dumbest test. We're going to be the simplest is simple, and I'm going to break it down in baby steps. Then we're going to jump into a console app and make a fake networking utility. You guys, if you've ever watched any of my other courses, you know I love making fake network utilities. And we're going to be using XUnit and Fluent assertions. And then after that, we're going to jump right into MVC. We're going to be writing production quality unit test inside of MVC. And if you guys really like it and there's a lot of thumbs up, hint, hint, in down the comments, there's a lot of thumbs up on the video and there's a lot of comments down the video, I will do web API as well too. So let's go ahead and jump down in here. We're going to go ahead into Visual Studio and let's just create the world's dumbest function. And then after that, we're going to write literally the world's dumbest test. We're going to have a little bit of fun. So we're going to go into Visual Studio. I just fired up Visual Studio. We're going to go into a console app. Then we're going to go into here and we're just going to call this unit test. And actually, if you just want to follow along, you can do that as well too. I highly suggest that you code along with me, but if you want to just follow along, that's okay too. But I'm just going to call this unit test, and we're going to be in .NET 6. Wait a minute, there's already, let's say, unit test course. There's already one in there with the word unit test. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to fire this up. We're going to have a nice little app, and we are going to go ahead in here and create the world's dumbest function. So go ahead, right click. I'm assuming you have some knowledge already of how you create classes in here. So we're going to say world's dumbest function, and we're going to create worlds. Then we're going to create this function within our class. So we go in here, gonna go public, and within this world's dumbest function ever, we're going to call it bool returns. Actually, let's actually return a string. String returns Pikachu. This is the world's dumbest function. Not even kidding. Okay, so we're going in here and literally let's pass in an int too. So let's make it a little bit more complicated. Returns Pokemon if 0. So we're going to go in here, and we need it to actually return something. I think if we just have it, returning like a string of Pikachu, that's not complicated enough. We need it to actually return something. So we're going to go num. If this is equal to 0, we are going to return Pikachu. And it's going to be shouting just like Pikachu, Pikachu. Okay, so we're going to go down. Then we're going to go down here, and if it doesn't, it's going to return false. Or actually, no, let's return Squirtle because we need it to return Pikachu. So this is the world's dumbest function, and if you pass in a 0, it's going to return Pikachu, and if you don't pass in 0, it's going to return Squirtle. And you could make this anything. This is just an example. This isn't some kind of complicated function where you have to have this, but this is indeed a function, and you have to think how would you actually test this, and what would you be testing for? Why would we even have a test? What if somebody came in here, maybe they changed this and returned 0, maybe like a developer came in here and maybe they changed this to 1 and they didn't really realize it, and within their use case, the 1 made sense. There's scenarios like that all the time, and that's kind of what I was talking about. That's one of the reasons that we actually have tests. I'm sorry, there's like a dump truck outside my house for some reason right now, but it'll go away here in a second. hopefully. So we're just going to leave that 0. And once again, code changes all the time, and we need to make sure that this function is always returning Pikachu. It always has to. Otherwise, it's going to break, hypothetically, some business critical function in our app. So what we do is we create test, and we're actually going to create a real unit test, but we're going to actually not use any testing frameworks, and we're just going to make a folder called test. And this is actually, I didn't live back then, but I've read in areas where people actually did stuff like this. This is like what you did back in the day. So we would say world's dumbest function, and then we would just say test. So world's dumbest function, and then we would have test. So we go in here, and then what we would do is, first we got to make this public. I don't know why they make everything internal now. It's so strange. So public, so static. So we're going to make this static because we're going to have to bring this into our actual program file after we get done with this. So let's go ahead and make it static. Let's also make the top part static right here. Then we're going to go in here and type in worlds. So very important, you have to think about when you are writing tests, you need to worry about naming conventions, because if you've ever seen a test, and if you've ever worked somewhere, and if you're watching this because you've begun working at a place and they need you to learn unit tests, you have to be very cognizant of what you name stuff. So typically you see this naming convention right here. You're going to see class name, you're going to see the method name, so method name, and then expected result. And that is the naming convention. So you always need to be cognizant. And in our case, we had the world's, let me see, like what actually was that? Let's bring this over here. So we go over here, and the class name is world's dumbest function underscore, the method name is returns Pikachu if 0, and then you put another underscore, and then you put the expected result, and the expected result is returns string. Yeah, let's just put return string. And we're going to have a void because tests don't actually return anything. They're literally just testing. And we need to go down here. Let me see. Actually, we need the void after the static. That's why it's giving that error. So I'm going to bring this over right here, and it may kind of look a little strange, and it may look a little weird, and you may kind of cringe at how long that function is, but that's the correct naming convention, and that's just kind of the way things work. And it does make sense, and I'll show you why we actually have this in a minute, and why it looks so dumb and why it looks so cringy. So we're going to wrap this in a try catch just in case it gives any other type of strange error. And we're going to put this, we're going to just swallow the catch, as some people call it. That sounded a little strange. It sounds okay, like when you read that, but when you say that out loud, that sounds kind of a little weird, but I'm just going to keep going. So what we want to do, you need to arrange, you need to act, and you need to assert. And these are it's AAA. Sometimes people call it AAA. Sometimes people call it, it's got a whole host of other names, but you're going to see this. If there's anything you want to memorize in this whole entire video, like I'm not even joking, like this AAA is going to follow you around for probably the rest of your testing career or your software career. Make sure, just write this down on a piece of paper if you have to, and write down just what I'm about to, start typing, because this is very, very, very important. That acronym is so important. So arrange is basically means go get your variables. Go get your variables. Whatever you need. Your classes, go get your classes. Go get your functions. And put them in here. Whatever is needed for this function to actually run, and you go over here, you look at it. I'm trying to think. Need maybe a 0. We need a num. I'm kind of just doing this off the top of my head, to be honest with you. And we also need, so I'm trying to think. Okay, so I think we just need right now, we just need an int. So we just pass in 0 because we actually want that, we want this one to pass. So we're gonna pass in a 0 int. I'm trying to think. So int num is equal to 0. And then we want to act. And the way that you act is you actually bring in, what act means is execute, like actually execute this function. You want to bring in this function. So arrange is, get everything ready before you actually execute this thing. Act means actually execute the function. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to actually execute it. So bring in world's dumbest function. So we're going to bring it in. And we'll just call it world's dumbest. Oh my god. Okay. Then we come in here. Actually, this is actually going to be arranged because this is actually the class. I'm sorry. I'm literally doing this on the fly, and I think that kind of helps a little bit because it shows you like how to actually think about writing a unit test. So the arrange is going to be that's our class, that's our variable. Then we're going to go down here and we're going to actually execute. So we're going to say it's going to return a string, say result is equal to, and this is when we're actually going to execute this function. So we go in here and returns Pikachu of 0. We're going to pass in our num. Then we're going to go down here, and then the assert basically means whatever is returned, is it what you want? And I literally just made that up. Like whatever is returned from this function, like whatever returns Pikachu of 0. So whatever this result is, we need to actually go in here and we need to check if it's true. Think about it like this. You're a human. You have a human body. And what if I was going to test whatever you return? Like say if I have you drink water, eventually you are going to, execute, it's going to go through your body and you are going to excrete this water. Like if I were going to test you, the arrange would be like, I'm going to get my water. And then the execute would be, I'm going to have you drink the water. And then whatever assert is whatever you return. You're going to return P. You're going to excrete P. We're getting a little in the weeds here, but you get what I'm saying. That's the whole entire idea behind tests. Like you're executing the test and you're not actually so concerned about like what's going on inside this Pikachu function. You're more concerned about what's actually being returned, and that is what assert is. So here what we're going to do is whatever is returned. So if this result, or if result is equal to Pikachu, and you could put in here if result is equal to string, but that's actually let's just go with this for now. So right line passed. This test passed. Test dumbest, test or world's dumbest function, and then you would put this right here. World's dumbest function returns Pikachu of 0. returns string. And you may have heard of things like xunit and all of these things, but what xunit is really doing is making it so that we don't have to wrap it in a try-catch block, and we don't have to do, all of these things, and we get these fancy little tools in our IDE that allow us to just click a button. You see, with this, we actually have to we have to do the console log and we have to do this if, but with everything else, or with actual frameworks, it makes it so that we don't actually have to do that. And then right here, we're gonna go in, then we're gonna go console.writeLine, we're gonna go failed, and world's dumbest function, yada yada yada, failed. So that when you run this, and keep in mind, you're running whenever you're at work, you're running thousands of tests, and you want to see pass, and then you want to see one thing failed, and then you can just go quickly, go to this function and quickly see, oh gosh, I shouldn't have changed that. And that's the whole entire idea behind a unit test. And that's the reason we have unit tests, is so that you can, click that one button, thousands of unit tests are executed, and you can see, oh gosh, I shouldn't have changed that because that one change that I made is breaking. And what if you went in here? So let's go ahead. We're going to go ahead and run it. I hope this runs. Oh, wait a minute. I forgot. We have to actually go inside of our program CS. So let's go into this part right here. And then we'll go world's dumbest. Going to go in here. We're actually going to. We'll leave that hello world up there. Go right here, and it's static, so I'm pretty sure we can just go in here. Oh, we got to bring in our test like this. So we bring in that, and I'm actually going to close this. This is looking a little unwieldy. Go here, bring it in, bring in our unit test down here. Go ahead and run this, and oh. Looks like our unit test actually failed. Let's see where it failed. Result is equal to Pikachu. So if this is 0, world's dumbest function. So let's go in here and let's see where it failed. I'm kind of doing this on the fly, but let's actually step into it and see where it failed. So we're going in here. It's going to create world's dumbest function. It's going to go into it. This is 0. Returns Pikachu. Oh, I didn't have the exclamation mark, I think. Let's go ahead in here. Great. So yes, it passed. The reason it didn't pass is because I just said Pikachu. I was supposed to say Pikachu. Okay. That is the beginning parts of our unit test. Now we can actually move on to real unit tests with real frameworks, and we're going to kind of work our way up from there. But anyway, I hope that you guys enjoyed this. I hope that it was a good introduction to unit test, and from here on, we're going to be doing real unit tests. Make sure to smash that like button. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. And as always, thank you for watching.